Alright, what's going on, guys? If you've been keeping up with the news recently surrounding FromSoftware, or even the gaming industry as a whole, then you've likely heard the news. The big story on all the headlines at the moment, that Sony may potentially buy out the parent company of FromSoftware, Kadokawa. Now, we covered that story here on the channel about a week ago, right after it broke, and the reception to this news has been very poor, to say the least. People are not excited about the prospect at all. They think it could potentially be the end of FromSoftware as we know it, and to an extent, those concerns are perfectly valid, with Sony not having the best video game track record, especially in recent years, and their business decisions being questionable to say the least. However, since we covered that, there have been a lot of new developments, insights into the workings behind this deal, why it may be even more likely now, what potential hangups could be, and some other outside parties that may be the driving factor behind it. So I'm going to get you up to speed on everything revolving around that. We also need to talk about some new Bloodborne rumors, yes, yet another one, and then a new look into the Armored Core TV show that might actually be amazing. So we got a lot to break down, and as we begin today, y'all be sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date on all things FromSoftware. And now let's get into it. So like we were saying, you probably heard the news about Sony attempting to buy out Kadokawa, the parent company that owns FromSoftware. They are a massive Japanese media company that control a big portion of the industries behind manga, anime, books, and movies over there. But despite that, one of their biggest money makers is their gaming segment, with their primary developer being FromSoftware. Now for several years, Sony has owned a portion of FromSoftware with about 17% stake in the company. But if this Kadokawa deal were to close, Sony would be the majority stakeholder with roughly 87% stake, effectively meaning that they would have complete control over FromSoftware. Now, whether or not they actually exercise that control or let FromSoftware do their own thing, that's the question. Because with Kadokawa being the main stakeholder, FromSoftware has been able to make their own decisions and make the games they want to make, leading to success after success. But now if Sony were to take over and they think they know better, they could very easily run the company into the ground. It's a very realistic possibility. But when that news first broke, we didn't have many definite sources on it, and people were still holding out hope that it could be clickbait or a false rumor. However, since then, Kadokawa has put out an official statement, confirming that talks with Sony about a potential acquisition were indeed happening, although no official decision had been reached at that time. So it's looking like a very real thing. This could definitely happen, but the question remained, well, why would they want this to happen in the first place? Why would Kadokawa want to give up their majority stake? Well, we now have some details. Take a look at this article here. FromSoftware parent company Kadokawa Corporation has recently been pushing Sony Group towards a purchase, according to a new report. We first saw speculations last week that Kadokawa set the stage for a Sony acquisition to fend off a hostile takeover from foreign companies, including South Korea's Kakao Corporation. A fresh report by Bloomberg partially backs up these claims. Bloomberg reports that both Kadokawa and Sony have been going back and forth for a number of years, with the former wanting Sony to make a full purchase, whereas the latter was only interested in strategic investments in anime and video game IP. Though Bloomberg's report mentions that Microsoft, Tencent, and Kakao have all expressed an interest in Kadokawa, it stops short of confirming that Kadokawa wanted to fight off a foreign entity in favor of the local Sony group. Established in 1945, Kadokawa is an anime powerhouse with a library of over 100,000 novels and comics. The company previously dismissed suggestions of an acquisition, but with its founding members gone and it being publicly listed, Kadokawa doesn't seem interested in fighting off any offers going forward. Interestingly, Bloomberg claims that the news of a potential acquisition pushed Kadokawa's market value up to $41 billion, making a deal with Sony more difficult than it was just a week ago. Additionally, offers from other buyers are also a possibility, so what happens next remains to be seen. Analysts have told Bloomberg that Kadokawa could be one of Sony's best purchases, and that FromSoftware alone holds massive value, although the acquisition has more to do with anime than video games. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there. As the article says, Kadokawa has been in a pretty sorry state over the last few years. Despite Elden Ring being a massive success and offsetting company profits for several years in a good direction, they've also been in a lot of trouble, having to do a full restructuring of the company because a lot of leadership were let go after they were prosecuted for illegal bribing. They've also been the victims of a gigantic ransomware attack for the better part of a year now, which has only just been resolved. And I think that probably plays a big part in why they want to just sell the whole company. But I think one part of this that might actually be a positive, if you're someone that's worried about their potential integrity with this deal, is that it does does appear that they're actively wanting to keep everything in Japan. Keep it Japan owned. Because if anybody's gonna come in and screw this all up, it would be the West. Now, as we know, Sony is divided into two segments with Sony America and Sony Japan, and a lot of the bad, albeit not all of it, can be attributed to Sony America decisions. So even if the deal does close, Sony Japan may respect the integrity of FromSoftware enough to let them keep doing their own thing and representing Japan well. But with all this context, I think this does make it far more likely that the deal will happen than not, since all of these new details appear to suggest that it's only a matter of time before somebody comes in and makes them an offer they can't refuse. But when we really look at the situation as a whole, it's hard to find the good in this, because ideally, Kadokawa would just stay the same. They've done a great job with FromSoftware, and it seems like any change at all can only negatively affect the business. So as it stands, we really have no choice than to just sit back and watch and see what happens. So unfortunately, not good news, but we'll just have to wait and see. Also in the news, it was inevitable that with talks about Sony, a Bloodborne rumor would emerge, as they often do. This time, however, a Bloodborne server maintenance announcement happens to coincide with PlayStation's 30th anniversary, and people are running wild with this. Now, it's hard to sit here and say that this could be any kind of sign whatsoever. Bloodborne server maintenance is nothing new. It's happened many times in the past, and every single time these kinds of things pop up. People speculating that we're finally getting a remaster. We just happen to have a coincidence this time with it lining up with a special date for PlayStation. Now, does this mean an announcement is going to happen? No. Does this mean an announcement is definitely not going to happen? No. Maintenance is nothing out of the ordinary. It's not a sign of anything. And the fact that it falls on this date is purely coincidental. So even if the announcement does happen, this is not the evidence you want. Look for something more concrete, like insiders hinting at it or potential leaks, but the server maintenance is not a sign of anything. But again, we'll see what happens come this date. But man, I am excited about this next thing, and that is that we got our first look at the Armored Core TV episode coming out on December 5th, part of Amazon's Secret Level Anthology series. This looks so good, I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. We got Keanu Reeves playing an augmented human, piloting an Armored Core, talking to a choral voice in his head, so it does appear like we're building off of Armored Core 6 lore, which I think is a fantastic idea because that's fresh on everybody's brains. People that didn't play the old Armored Cores are going to be able to enjoy this show and have a pretty good grasp at what's going on. And even just from the little conversation we see happening here, it seems like the writing's gonna be pretty good as well. And it's got me hyped up. The visuals look awesome. I'm happy that we're sticking with AC6. And of course, after it comes out, I'm gonna have a little review video for you guys, just to give you my thoughts on it, with it being our first FromSoftware TV adaptation, and what that could potentially mean for future adaptations that we've heard rumors about happening before. Anyways though guys, that's gonna pretty much do it for the video today. Y'all let me know your thoughts about everything that we talked about. Do you think the Sony deal is the end all beat all? Do you think that's going to be the end of FromSoftware, or do you think they're gonna just let them do their own thing and everything will be fine? Personally, I don't like the optics and all the rumors going around about the inside workings of that deal. I don't like how things sound for Kadokawa, as it sounds like they're getting a bit desperate, and that's never a good thing in business. Also, are you excited for the Armored Core TV episode? I'm curious to hear what you guys are thinking about that and the little bits we've seen so far. But either way though, if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to leave a like on it. Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments section below, and subscribe if you're new around here. But with all that, I will catch you in the next one.